can catch signs. Yeah.
You can catch signs, you said, Antonio?
Like for me right now, it's smooth. Yeah, yeah,
Six.
not catch.
I was like, is it that bad? It's freezing that you got to be catching signs? Like, what you, let me
I
go
got to
outside.
put the picture together.
I feel like we about to learn a lot
Okay,
today.
cool, cool, cool.
All right. I'm glad everybody go ahead and start the episode. I'm Double D Beats with the Next Move podcast. This is my co-host JayGuru Music,
Yeah.
and today we have a special guest, friend of mine, a high school classmate. The most fond memory I have is, I guess, from band. We met, we would say, in band. He was a saxophone player,
Oh shit.
pretty good to my memory. Probably stayed in first chair. You made some moves. You decided that you was going to take your career in a different way. You attended an HBCU, the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I see you are an ASL interpreter. What's got you into doing that?
Well, thank y'all for having me here, and really appreciate this designated space. As far as what got me into interpreting, I would say it was about 2008, somewhere around '08, '09, when I was in the DC area. So I moved to the DC area about 12 years ago now. I've been living here ever since. But that's when I was exposed to the first deaf person that I knew, and over time, we became good friends. And he should be watching now. But at any rate, somewhere along the line when I was growing up, I learned ABCs, right? And so that kind of stuck with me. And so one day I was kind of out and about, just exploring the area, getting used to my surroundings and things like that. And I was lost. But, you know, I, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. But at any rate, the first person I saw who seemed okay, cool, kind of friendly, I was like, hey, can you point me in the direction of where my community was, my apartment community was at the time? And he either started gesturing or doing sign language or, speaking in a certain way. And it took me a second to kind of understand what was happening or, that he was deaf. At the time, I didn't know anything. But I was amazed because, in Arkansas, I wasn't exposed to anything like deafness, deaf people, interpreters, sign language, nothing like that except for the ABCs that I learned.
Hmm.
So I was more amazed. I forgot that I was lost and I started trying to communicate back, using my hand to spell the alphabet
Hmm.
and get what I wanted to say out and try to understand the message that was given to me. And so at that point, I really just kind of wanted to learn and grow with it. And so we exchanged contact information. Went back to Arkansas, finished out school over time, graduated, then moved here permanently in 2010. And that's when I really started becoming more passionate about it. Learning it, reconnecting, connecting with deaf people, being in the deaf community, going to deaf events, and
Hmm.
the thing that really changed my life, and one thing I should mention is when I moved here because I had to start working for the federal government because they paid for me to go to school and to pay back that service, I had to work for them after I graduated. So they placed
Okay.
me in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, or what's
So
called a DMV.
knowing sign
And my
language.
bad, I'm just going on and on and on and on
No,
and
no, no,
on.
no, no.
Right, I'm
We
sure
are
it's good. It's
recording.
good. So knowing sign language get you a job with the feds basically.
Oh no, I mean, well, totally unrelated. Like
Oh,
that's
okay,
I'm glad
okay.
you brought that up because I actually went to school for agricultural business.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so
Mhm.
that's my background, right? Farming production, animals, livestock, plant
That's fire.
science.
I was not expecting
Yeah.
that. That's fire.
Plot twist.
Yo, now
um
wow. Is there a
uh,
community for that then? For integrating both of them? Teaching
yeah,
more
man.
deaf people how to farm?
You because like, it's a language, it can be used anywhere with anybody. And there's a need for it all over the world. And one thing about it, there are different sign language is not universal. There are different kinds of sign language, right?
Okay.
And
Mhm.
so if you know how the interpreter is signing right now, if the interpreter were to go to Japan, or if I were to go to Japan and I started doing American Sign Language, they could be looking at me like, "What are you signing?" Because they have their own, form of sign language, how they communicate.
So
And I don't know what it's called, but I'm just gonna say in Japanese Sign Language, what have you.
so each language has their own sign language.
Yeah, different countries, have their own sign language, and then within it, there's also variation in dialect, right?
Oh wow.
It's like how you have us or people from the South, myself, and they say, "Oh, you have a lazy drawl or a lazy tongue,"
I wanted to
you
ask you
know.
that, like, are there like country accents in sign language? Like, because I don't think everybody is going to be speaking the same way. Like, it is a language. It's an art form almost.
Yeah, I would say you can, with depending on a person's level of deafness or if they were to use their voice, how they might speak or pronounce, you may can get a sense of where they may be from or where they learned the language.
Okay.
Um, yeah, we typically use terms like accent, a deaf accent, um, and things like that. So yeah, there's like variation within sign language too.
Just learn something
Okay,
new.
so it sounds like that's like something personal. Like you have to. I guess that will kind of segue into my next question. When you are interpreting, do you feel it's better to like establish a relationship with the person versus being more detached?
That's a great question in the sense of usually we try to show up early to an assignment about 10 to 15 minutes early. Pre-COVID, minimum 15 minutes. Now with, the pandemic shifts to things being virtual, it may be shortened to 10 minutes depending on the job. But typically you show up early just to try to get a feel for the language that might be used, to get a feel for the person, if you can read them, if it's a match or rapport, things like that on like a language level. Because if you can't understand, then there's no point in being there, right?
Right.
You would probably have to call the agency to request a sub or just figure out something else. But for me, I try to establish a professional relationship for the most part, and I think that that's my priority. But over time, because the communities, interpreting communities and deaf communities are small and really connected, and pretty much everybody knows each other,
Hmm.
so sometimes your professional boundary, you might be a little bit more lax with it over time. And you start, making more of a personal connection.
I ain't never think about that. All of y'all might know each other.
Yeah, it's a lot of people from coast to coast too, right? West Coast
Huh.
to East Coast, North to South. Everybody's on the same Instagram page.
All right.
I was- Everybody follows the same accounts.
So that brings up the question, like, what are like the requirements to be a interpreter, like besides just learning sign language?
Well, the things that are coming to mind for me right now are one, knowing sign language, knowing the language, and then two, knowing how to interpret. And I was taught we interpret for meaning.
For
And we
meaning.
all, I'm sure, have heard the phrase, it's raining cats and dogs outside, right?
Hmm.
But for deaf people in the deaf community, they're higher context, and hearing people, we're more low context. Oh, there's water under the bridge. Oh, it's raining cats and dogs. But deaf people, oftentimes we might have to really expand on what that means. So an interpreter, if they were signing for meaning, wouldn't sign, "Oh, it's raining cats and dogs outside," right?
Hmm.
Because the deaf person may be like, "What do you mean? Where are the cats and dogs falling from the sky?"
So be like more direct about it.
Yeah, so like a lot of metaphors, a lot of idioms, we may show that. We may sign the literal English. Some may also just go for what does it mean? What does water under the
Mhm.
bridge mean? Things like that.
So do you guys have slang in sign language then?
There's a lot of slang. I can't keep up with all the slang.
Oh wow. There's slang and sign language. That is, wow.
Yeah, give me an example if you don't mind. Like, what would you?
Like what's up, or any kind of like normal hip hop phrase like
What's
thought
poppin'?
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like how would you sign thought? Like how would you describe that?
I was thinking about that. I didn't want to go there. A little
Yeah,
thought.
I'm trying to keep it, somewhat PG.
But it's hip hop
I
though.
mean, but yeah, right. So, but those are the things that we hear every day, all the time. So
Right.
we probably should have that understanding, that foundation, that cultural context, that cultural competency to effectively interpret, the meaning of, thought, or, what's popping, or litty,
Oh, that's good
tripping,
though.
dope, all of that.
So
Yeah.
okay. So what would be is lit then? Like now I wanna know now I wanna know what that is.
And typically what we do, we allow deaf people to show signs because it's frowned upon for hearing people to like show different signs because it's not our language, right?
Mm.
We're learning through them who are the native users of the land, of the language. They lay the land. Um, but I mean, if you might watch the interpreter sometimes, you might see the interpreter, throw out a side or two or
Just I would have
piece
never
it
thought.
together.
I would have never thought you guys had like slang with it. Like it gets a lot deeper than you will ever think.
Everything I'm sure that y'all talk about, that y'all heard, everything that happens or goes down in pop culture, hip hop, rap songs, anything happening on, but Instagram, we have to know it or should know it, but that people are talking about the same topics.
Hmm.
That brings a
Yeah,
lot of.
it's very deep and it can be real technical too. And sometimes I have to detach from it, right? Because I gotta separate myself from being the interpreter and always analyzing language versus just being myself.
Okay, so
So
no, you good, you good.
okay, so with you, analyzing the language and trying not to overstand people. Let's say we talked about social media. How would a deaf person consume social media? Like, is it better for a closed caption situation, or is signing a better method of receiving the message?
Yeah, definitely. Their native language being sign language, that will always be, and this is me speaking from what I've learned and what I've seen and what I've heard, that would be best for them to meet them at their language or that use the language that they use to communicate on a day-to-day basis. Because I'm pretty sure y'all have seen where some captions or some subtitles, you know, what you hear and what the
Words.
subtitles actually show completely different.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You
Yeah.
yeah.
know, and sometimes we can understand if somebody is saying a word like bat or pat or cat. We're big on consonants and things like that. And I don't know if they were talking about, I'm just about to make something up. The man hit the bat that hit the cat. Maybe a person is slurring, right? And so the subtitles might have the cat in the bat, the cat hit the bat, something like that. But if you have, a language person there, that's a better way to kind of filter and, obey the appropriate context, word, and meaning.
So that now that brings the question of like, how come there isn't like a YouTube version of for sign language for interpreting
Like,
that? Or
I guess I would liken it to any language, Spanish or French. It's better if you get it firsthand from the people that use it, that have been using it. If you were to go to like Spain or Haiti or wherever, and you just were like dropped off right there, you would be kind of forced to pick up the language and understand it, right? And get it
Mhm.
firsthand from the people that use it. All the all the slang, the phrases, everything, versus looking at it from a book. Then also that helps you with understanding regional regional variation, accents, and just knowing how people communicate on like an older level, senior citizen level, all the way down to teenager or infant level.
So
You know,
it's
teens
completely
speak
different.
talking. Yeah, like
Right.
how they use it, the speed, that
Wow.
changes depending on the person, the area, the topic.
Hmm.
So speaking of like the different levels of ages of people that you talk to, have you ever spoken with animals? Have you ever used sign language?
That would be fire.
Because yeah,
Wait, wait, because I was like, what? But then I was like, actually, yeah.
because chimpanzees definitely, they communicate that way.
In a way, because I used to have a
Hmm.
dog, a Siberian Husky.
Oh
And
wow.
so, but like you can teach animals commands, like you were mentioning, like communication between a chimpanzee or gorilla, whatever the
Mhm.
case. So I would speak and I would show the sign. So if I were to like say sit, I would probably sign like sit or sit at the same time for my dog to kind of understand what that meant and to put it together. But deaf
Mhm.
people do teach their animals, sign language. I've seen many people that I know who are
Hmm.
deaf, just sign to their dog sit and they sit or stay and they
That's
stay.
awesome.
Oh wow. So
So it's like you said you had an animal and you were training him. Like, what was I guess the learning process? Like, how did you over time? Did you notice he responded to the hand commands and you just eventually stopped with the voice, or how did that work?
Yeah, as long as I did my part and reinforced everything with treats, but I wasn't feeding no treats.
gotta
It
bring them
wasn't
trees
no
up.
obedience. If you ain't give me no treat, I'm not sitting. I don't know. You can do everything you want to do,
Like, what's the
but
point of me
I
even
ain't
being
finna do
here?
it. Right. But yeah, over time, I realized I could take my voice away and just do the sign for the word, and he would pick it up and understand
Seems like that'd be a lot more direct. Like, you
it.
know what I'm trying to do. I'm not saying that you know exactly what I'm trying to do.
Right. You might be trying to eat something, a sandwich, a burger, whatever, and you just sit,
Like, even
and
while you speak,
Yeah,
you're trying to do the exact same thing. So you might as well just skip it. They can't understand that
Mhm.
part.
Yeah, they be right up there just looking. Okay, sit. You got a treat? All right.
Like, you got what I need. If not, I ain't.
You
You might as
you
well
know the
just
deal.
leave, my boy.
Right.
Hey man, like, what's like, I guess what's like some of the sacrifices you can say that you've taken going down this lane?
Whew. Oh my God. Time.
Time.
Time, 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 and time, 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 time. um, so much time that I'll never get back, but all to get me to where I am today, right? So very
Hmm.
appreciative, very grateful. But I would say anything, it takes time to learn the language. It takes time to learn the language, and then it takes some time to communicate and then interpret because they're two different things. Especially, I learned me thinking I was interpreting when I really was. I should have been sitting down somewhere watching. But a lot of time for since 2008, 2009, and I'm still learning, right? Because language changes.
Right.
Words are created all the time. Like what's a recent word that just came up and that we might use
WAP.
or hear? WAP. Okay,
WAP.
right, exactly. And then, and like going back to litty, popping,
Slang.
twerking, all that stuff, it changes. But
So,
then sign language has to keep up too.
so it's definitely like a practice. That makes sense. There's nothing is absolute in this language. Not even in English. English is not even an absolute
Yeah,
language.
right, right.
so with the ever-changing process of communication, what is it outside of that? It seems like that inspires you to continue being involved with it.
Good question.
I really, I really believe and would say it's a part of my purposes. It's one of my purposes because when I was working for the government, I worked there for 13 years and it was not to knock anybody, but it was a desk job and that's cool, that's great. And at the time I think I came in when I was 20, 21, but I got the scholarship when I was like 17 Went to
Mm.
school for 4 years, graduated. Yep. But I mean, you sitting at a desk all day, you typing on a computer, maybe answering some phones, emailing, and that sort of thing. And whole time I knew what I wanted to do, and I felt like while I was there, I was wasting so much of my time. And so while I was still working, I started taking classes and then just going down that route with it. And eventually I left, but I would say that I knew that it was a purpose for me to be exposed to sign language in the way that I did and to continue the course. Early on, I got a lot of comments that were, "Oh, we need more black interpreters. We need more black male interpreters." You know, the field is dominated by white women,
White women.
and that's not the layout of our land for real, right? You have
Right.
black, white, indigenous, AAPI, like so much diversity, especially in this area.
So
This
many
is
That
flavors.
crazy.
that brings up a question I was going to ask you earlier. Like, is there racism in the sign language culture? Like, how's the racism like look like in that culture?
Woo! Racism shows up and it rears its ugly head in the form of people who are racist and who know sign language, right? If you
That's
were,
wild.
if you, I mean, if you were from Arkansas, if you were from Texas or wherever, any place in the South, that probably is something that you may have seen, learned, or experienced. And whether you're hearing or deaf, it doesn't matter what you learn, what you picked up, and what you believed, what stuck with you. That shows up in our jobs, like
Wow.
today, and especially with Black Lives Matter and so many other movements and things. A lot of racism and a lot of bias, a lot of triggers, and a lot of people, handle them in different ways. But it definitely comes up, and it can come up anytime. It can come up in the form of, okay, you all set for today? Well, I have some feedback for you, and they have like a laundry list of all these things, but it could be rooted in racism
Of
or
course.
biasness, right?
Yeah, of course. Nitpicking.
Exactly. Or it could be, oh, I need an interpreter, but not you because you dark. That
Mm.
happens, and sometimes we have to interpret that stuff. It could be a white person saying anything negative or disparaging about a black person, and the interpreter is black, and they have to interpret that.
That
Well,
just
have to.
that just made me remember like seeing all these concerts and whatnot. They all have interpreters, right? But there's always a white person. Even like at a Waka Flocka concert, there's a white person interpreting that. Like,
Yeah.
like I know there's a black person who listens to Waka Flocka.
Many black people, right? And that's another thing that the community has, raised hell about, if you will, because there should be that cultural competency.
Mm.
And I would say, at least for me, I'm not speaking for anyone here, but when I walk into a room with us, I'm comfortable compared to, a lot of white people. I might be like, let me, see who's
Yeah.
who, if I know anybody. It's something internal that happens. I can feel something uh, shifting, right? And
Comforting.
yeah, there's definitely a difference when a person who's not of your cultural background enters the space.
Yeah,
If I
Okay.
know,
something
if I
familiar.
know the interpreter is black, I'm pretty sure, they know the lyrics to Waka Flocka or whatever the case, and I could trust they would interpret it how
Or
it should be interpreted.
or their grandparents told me the same message that their grandparents told them. Just simple, like
Mhm.
it's deep rooted, like legit deep rooted. Like your grandparents probably know my grandparents, but we don't even know that.
It's possible, right? And so if you see a white interpreter up on stage with the black performer, even black deaf community members would be looking like, hold up, wait a minute. When there's like all of these black qualified,
Yeah,
certified interpreters, why they not on the stage?
not one. I don't. I dead ass cannot remember one interpreter at any concert.
Definitely
I
love representation for sure.
Yeah, I would say I know, and we've like seen because we see all the like ooh, there's a black interpreter, ooh, a brown interpreter.
They pop out.
And it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy that we have to acknowledge those one-off moments, right? It shouldn't be that way. So
Right.
Yo,
we've seen those one-offs, right?
that's a deep. Oh my god, we were just talking about that with the problem with the Oscars. It was saying they got overshadowed for being like finally getting an Oscar, when it's like this black man should have got an Oscar this whole time. We're
All along.
we're just not acknowledging that, when it's like we should have been acknowledged that. That should have been there.
Right. And I really feel like the whole impetus was with the George Floyd movement, and that, when everybody saw it, I
Hmm.
think that there then began a lot of shifts, and people were starting to wake up at least. But, whole time we had been impacted in the, black community, black hearing community and black deaf community. But then you see the effects or the impacts of that, right? Like you just mentioned about the Oscars, that comment about representation. And it should have been that way years ago. It shouldn't
Facts.
have to take, a death or murder. I'm not trying to get too BLM, but I mean that's kind of like with my shirt. Black male interpreter, black first, because that's what you see,
Facts.
you know.
At the
So
end of the day, you're still black.
before I speak, whether that's English or sign language or anything, you see the outside.
You're
You see,
still a black
you're a
man.
black person. Yeah. So
You
And
might.
that's crazy that the skin color is like an obstacle for us. Like that's a weird dynamic to have. And
right.
like a question I would have, like based off of what you stated with the language barriers and how racism does exist within the field, can you reflect on maybe a difficult or a dangerous time that you were having to interpret, and maybe something like that happened with you?
When you mentioned dangerous, my mind went to a place. I actually interpreted at a gun range before. I wasn't scared or nervous or anything, but just to
Hmm.
show it can happen anywhere, any place, right? That was pretty cool. But I would say I've been when the George Floyd protests started popping off. I was in the streets. I was out there, but not interpreting, right? I was just, myself. I felt moved to go and be a part of and do my part. And so when it really got to the height of it, people were out and about, and in the DC area, they were throwing everything, some of anything, rubber bullets being, flying, and like those tear gas, smoke bombs, water bottles were thrown, bricks were thrown.
Man,
It
Damn.
was crazy.
yeah,
Like
you right in the
it
middle of
was
it.
in the middle, right? Now, thankfully I wasn't interpreting, but I have been close to interpreters in those ways, and I have interpreted sometimes at some protests, but I believe that was when things had kind of settled down a little bit. I don't know if I answered the question or went off cuff,
No, no,
but
no,
Now
no, no,
that,
no. You did.
yeah, because that's
you
You
definitely a
you
kind of
dangerous
definitely
shed
show
light
situation.
up.
on you shed light on a different area of the community that was facing some type of prosecution during other prosecutions. Thinking of, oh, interpreters could get hit with bricks while they're trying to relay a message. Like, okay.
Yeah, or even locked up just for trying to provide access, right? I
Hmm.
remember I posted on my Facebook account that I was gonna be out there, not even like interpreting related, but some of the messages I got were like, "Be careful, give
Mhm.
somebody your number. If something happens to you and you can't communicate, you get hit, you get knocked out, have your number written down on your arm or your wrist." I would have never thought about
Hmm.
things like that. But imagine an interpreter getting locked up just because they're there doing their job, but then you get put in jail.
Oh,
Yeah.
yo, that brings up another question. What happens if what's the proper way to say that, mute or deaf?
Oh, deaf.
Deaf.
Yeah,
So
just
what
deaf.
if someone's deaf and they end up getting hurt or injured and they can't do sign language? Would it be a good idea to have like something like kind of like a dog tag, I guess, just in case you're not able to communicate with your hands at that point?
Yeah, like having things or those type of assistive, whatever you want to call them, devices, cars, technology. I think that that would be great if that was something that was universal.
Mm,
But I still think that the mainstream hearing world is still behind as it relates to, in general, access and accommodations. There are a lot of
Right.
ways that a lot of things that deaf people have thought about, invented, and have put out there, but it just hasn't caught up to the mainstream hearing world to be even considered.
Really.
So, so yeah, uh, like to show hey, a card, read I'm deaf, that would be something that would be great to have, or
Yeah, that
because they don't know.
huh. Is it on your license or anything? Is there any
Not
is there any way to prove that you're deaf?
uh The only thing that I can think of is if you went to have a test done, like your hearing test, you would go to an audiologist to determine your level of hearing, and then in a medical way, there's something that you could provide. But just like an everyday, I don't know, let me buy this off the shelf type of thing to show and prove that I'm deaf.
They
Yeah,
definitely should
no.
have that. They should have that, like, especially on your license.
I mean, that would be great. So, right, like a cop, they'll ask if you get pulled over, license and registration, please. First thing they always ask, or not let the window down, or they
Right.
shine the light in a deaf person's face. But you shine a bright light in a deaf person's face, they can't see what
And the
anything.
first thing they're going to try to do to respond is use their hands. And I got to keep my hands
Exactly.
still.
Right. Then it's like, whoa, 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 hold up there. What you doing? I'm
Yeah.
trying to communicate, but you don't understand I'm deaf.
Oh, wow. So, wow. So
You
cops
know.
should
Danger,
learn that.
as I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. Yeah,
Yeah,
danger.
I would say I would tell if there's one thing I could relay about learning sign language, learn the bare minimum to communicate, just what you might say on a general basis to somebody, hello, how are you? Good morning, good day. I'm deaf, I'm hearing, things like that. Uh, it would benefit all of us. We all would come up in the deaf and hearing
Okay. So, okay.
capacities.
You should teach everybody who's watching this at least one thing in sign language today.
Yeah, give
Of
us a
like,
one off
I
that we
like
can use.
hello.
Y'all want me to be fired?
No.
Hearing
Because-
person teaching sign language. Ah,
because,
but with one of the interpreters here, signing. I haven't been looking, but she's put in, and because one of my mentors, both of them here. I'm just gonna let y'all know. My mentors, great, beautiful women. Thankful, so thankful for both of them being in my life and inspiring me to keep going. Life coaches, all of that, but
shout out to the black women.
language models right there. Yeah, absolutely. So you probably catch, a hello here and there, if they don't spell it.
I think I caught it. I'm
You
going to
think you
learn
caught
it.
it?
Yeah, like I was okay. This is what we was talking about earlier. Like I definitely believe that sign language should be a second language before any other language. Like growing up, they tried to tell us like learn Spanish, learn Spanish. Why not sign language?
Really good point. And me, I'm always doing something different. But when I was in high school, I was like, ooh, I want to learn French. Something different. But,
Yeah,
at like an infancy level or as babies, they'll pick up, signs faster than they will start speaking because of motor skills, right?
Yeah. Oh wow.
So they can start, putting their hands up and doing milk or cookie, things like that before they start actually pronouncing the word milk and cookie.
You say that's almost how babies already speak. Besides they screaming, just ah! Like I need Baba.
Right. So you should, and like definitely if you start or teach a young person at a very young age, brains are like sponges, absorb stuff so fast. If I started and I was like really going with it when I was younger, I don't even know where I would be right now.
The potential is crazy. Having the same knowledge that you have now. Oh my
Man,
god.
what?
I wish I could go back in time.
Right. A few
Mm-mm-mm.
different choices, at least for me.
I would have been in a whole nother palette by now.
I probably would have been in another country by now.
Hey, for real. We've been learning a whole different language, couple different languages.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you.
Say,
so with that, would you feel like you're at the top of your field, or are there still more levels to obtain?
For me, I will say yes. For me, right? Because I would say one of them, usually interpreters go after certification, and that's a whole process and beast in itself. Once you get certified, you can still keep going and going. But for me, that's the only thing I ever wanted to do was become a certified interpreter. And thankfully that did happen in the fall of last year. And for me
Hey,
now, I'm really good. With me being also the president of another nonprofit, first person of color president in
Hey,
51 years since the
go,
organization was
go,
born.
man.
Yeah, appreciate that.
congrats, man.
That wasn't even I wasn't even planning that. I didn't expect that. I wasn't looking for that. It happened, right? But I
The
put in
result
the
of your,
work.
yeah, definitely.
And so for me, I feel like I'm good. I don't have any other interpreting goals. I don't have to go any higher. Like I can, if I were to, heaven forbid, die today, I could look back and be like, dang, I did that in like 3 years. I'm good, and I'll just roll over.
Man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how does that feel? Like knowing that you like set out for a goal, you achieved it, and you can rest on your laurels if you wanted to, but you
Whew.
still are pushing with it. How does that feel?
I mean, it feels good and it's inspiring. But I learned it was inspiring because of the feedback that I got, or the people who come up to me now and, oh wow, you got certified, you're certified. That's such, man. And I'm trying to get through and do that and get up there. So it's all around, it's a good feeling. I'm glad I pursued. I didn't give up. I was set back several times, but finally I was able to pass that test and get that credential. And I think with that, almost like how the, what is it, the saying goes in Spider-Man, what was his name, Uncle Ben, right? With
Yeah.
great power
Uncle Ben.
comes great responsibility. And
Hmm.
I in part feel that type of way. I in part feel that in the way of, with achieving different things, getting to a certain point in your career. At least for me, I feel almost obligated to give back or to do something for the next generation or the people coming up even behind me. I want them to be inspired. Part of my upbringing was playing the piano and, like Des mentioned, the saxophone, right? So you would
Hmm.
think I would have went down the music field, but I didn't.
Hmm.
But I remember when I was playing at a church, I was playing the piano, and this was when I was probably 13, 14. So by that time, I'd been learning it for about 2 years. But this young girl, I think she was, to look at her, she was probably around 7 or 8. When I finished playing, was it Fear Elise? Whatever I played in the church at the time. Anyway, she came up to me and said she wanted to learn to play the piano too, and that I like inspired her in a way. And I was like, wow, me? For real? But I'll never forget that. You don't forget things like that. The positive comments, the unexpected positive comments, and I think I really feel it when people tell me, "You inspired me to do this," or I'll never forget. Um, oh, I dedicate my life. I give X amount of hours to this group of people, this community of people. I need time for myself, and that's absolutely true. And also, people notice your character, your worth, the time dedication that you put in, your caliber, and I think that all of us have our name and our reputation, right? I mean, whether that's
Hmm.
good or bad, that's what we have
Right.
based on what we done, what we built, or where we've been, where we've shown up. I think that's important to me, and I try to make sure my name is at least associated with mostly good stuff.
It's your legacy. You gotta build it how you want it. You're in control of it, so do the best you can be.
Exactly.
It's
Hmm.
no point of being lazy out here, people. Like it's your
Yeah, man.
dream.
It's
So
especially.
since we are a part of the toxic hustle culture, and you've achieved a goal,
Mm,
and this is the Next Move podcast, what do you do next at this stage?
good question.
Like you're at the top, like you said, you press, you Obama in this situation. What do you do next?
Yeah, I did hear that. My president is black.
Of course, you the first one, you know.
Yeah, it was a dope honor, but yeah, what's next? And I was gonna say, with this whole this you called it toxic hustle, this
Hustle
hustle
culture,
culture,
toxic
like
hustle culture.
It's definitely getting toxic now.
I wish it would stop because I'm almost burnt out. But because I know my goals, my dreams, and where I see myself, that pushes me to keep going. So now I'm in a season where I'm trying to shift, right? And for me, that looks like therapy, but
Mm.
in the form of hypnosis, also known as hypnotherapy. And this comes about because I want to be available in a way of not just an interpreter, but also doing other things to help more people and to reach more people and improve their quality of life, right? So with hypnotherapy, I'm taking classes for that right now. I'm a little over halfway finished with the second level of the course. But with hypnotherapy, you're assisting people with any blocks, any traumas, any triggers that are holding them back from living and achieving a better and enhanced quality of life. So if something happened to you at an early age and where you think, uh, I don't want to use like race as an example, but where you're afraid of clowns, right? Let's just say
Mm.
you're afraid of clowns because of, what's his name? Bozo came up to you when you was at the
Yeah,
circus and you were like, ah. So
Or like
anytime
a
you see a
the
traumatic.
clown,
bad
you
balloon
triggered.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah, pop, boom in your face, cake, pie, any.
right.
So you afraid to eat cake, you afraid to eat pie.
You got
So
traumatized.
yeah, all of that sits in our subconscious, right? And the goal of our subconscious is to make us feel good and to avoid pain.
Mm.
So we create these filters, we create these lenses, and that's how we operate our lives. That's how we see life. That's how we see the world through filters. And so the goal of hypnosis is to access the subconscious and then reframe those filters, reframe those beliefs, maybe even revisit those times in your life that cause trauma or triggers your now triggers. So
I,
that's the route I'm going now.
I
Yeah.
like how you said filters.
It definitely sounds like mental health. So when I think of hypnotherapy, I'm seeing a clock being waved in somebody's face and telling them to go to sleep. I'm sure that's not how it works.
Yeah, a lot of people will use like what most people know or what we've seen as stage hypnosis.
Mm.
On the count of three, 1, 2, 3, you're gonna go to sleep and then you're gonna quack like a duck, or here's the metronome, tick, 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 tick. They use those techniques to be honest, to bore the conscious. When the conscious is out the way, that's when you can access the subconscious. So essentially, the goal is to get you comfortable and relaxed for your conscious to say, oh, this
Mm.
is safe, nothing bad is happening. Subconscious, you take over, you become awake and aware.
So it's like
You,
distracting
hmm
security type.
yeah, exactly.
Let me get in the safe. Let me just distract the security real quick. So
Right. So you could very well use those types of things, but you also can use like a guided meditation. I have one that I wrote and I used actually on April Fool's Day when I had a hypnotherapy appointment with the client. And that was just me visualizing the script, writing that up, and then reading it out loud to get the client to a level of relaxation, comfortability in order to access the subconscious.
wow,
Yeah, so there are different
So
tools and techniques.
that's a
you're
deep one, right?
already implementing this and using hypnotherapy. So you're already implementing it with people.
Yeah, that was this past Friday was my first appointment. I mean, excuse me, my second appointment. It was my first hypnosis appointment. The initial intake appointment happened sometime in mid-March or so.
Yo, that just reminded me of this interview that I watched of this. It was an NBA trainer. He said he puts some of his clients like Devin Booker on microdosing so they can just relax and get that different viewpoint of like not trying to work too hard. Almost like almost the exact same way. Like NBA players are not trying to like they're working so hard to where like let me just literally get out of my mind just a little bit,
Hmm
just a little bit, just to stay
Right.
sane.
Right, and that's what we'll do. Like we'll build into the we might build into the script as we may call it, and when you see the color blue, you will feel calm, you will
Mm.
feel relaxed, you won't be triggered. And so when you come out of hypnosis, that's in your subconscious. So you start to see blue and you think, "Oh, it's not offensive. Oh, blue is cool. Blue is calm. I feel good with blue." So yeah, you have to get the conscious out the way because that's the block, right? That's what's in the way to access what we should or need to access.
That brings another question. Do you think a lot of people trigger their hypnosis on accident?
I'm glad you asked that because another thing is clients, the consumer, you control the whole situation.
Mm.
When you're ready to go into hypnosis, your brain it'll happen. You control that. We don't control or do anything, right?
Mm.
So for it to happen, the first thing you will need is a rapport, trust, and make sure that that's there and present. And then you have the power to control the session. Like you won't say anything you're not ready to say. You won't share anything you're not ready to share. Whatever you don't want to talk about won't come up, and we can't pull that out of you, so to speak.
Okay. Okay. That's okay. That's a good question then. I mean, yeah, that was a good question then. Good answer because I needed that because you answered a different question that I needed. Because
My
I didn't.
bad.
Nah, because you answered both of them. Because I'm like, that does bring up the question like being violated if someone's going into your conscious. That's a very vulnerable state.
It really is, and that's why I mentioned it's important to have that trust, that rapport, make sure that's
Mm.
established to build that confidence, in the practitioner, because essentially this is hypnosis or hypnotherapy is this. Say for instance, you have a garage and it's full of stuff, because you just been throwing boxes in there. You got old bicycles, you got an old car, you
Ordering.
got luggage. Yeah, all this stuff that you've been just hoarding over time, you was just sitting and sitting. So with hypnotherapy, me, the practitioner, I would come to your house and hold a flashlight behind you in this dark garage, but I would allow you to dig into the boxes that you want to go into and access and
Like
find
that
what's there.
analogy.
Mm.
Right. So I wouldn't say, tell me and show me what's inside of this box because I want to know and I want to see is, are you ready to go there? And if you're not,
Put it to the
that's fine.
side.
That's it. We just gonna put the flashlight somewhere else. When
Okay.
you're ready to explore what that is, that's when you open up about it.
Okay. Just being patient about it. Just taking our time and just getting comfortable getting there.
Right. Because, true enough, you may not even go into hypnosis the first time, second time, or third time. It may take a series of sessions to get you to that point of comfortability to then want to explore that deep-seated belief or trigger or trauma.
Like you almost have to accept it.
Right. You have to be ready to go there and be willing to potentially deal with what you find in that box that you put away for 13 years.
Okay. Wow. That's a. I don't think most people are ready for that to go that deep yet.
Yeah, that's just on a surface level. I can say and share some other stuff that y'all would probably be like, "What? Nah, please get that out of here."
Oh
Like,
yeah, we definitely need to. Next time you come back here,
there,
bro, we're going to go
whew.
even deeper on
Yeah, we're gonna have to
that.
have him back because
Yeah, we gotta go
he
deeper
didn't
on
let us
that.
know he was on the
Yeah,
hypnotherapy. That
that's
wasn't
a
in his
whole
bio.
nother one.
Hey, that's another plot twist.
Oh yeah, we gotta go deeper on
Yeah,
that. We gotta sit here and real deal talk about that.
There's a lot with that. And like
Man,
when you mentioned mental health, right? I mean, essentially that's what it relates to.
yeah,
And hypnotherapy falls under complementary and alternative medicine, CAM.
count.
And
Okay,
so, under CAM, there's hypnotherapy, there's also guided meditation, there's yoga, there's crystal healing, and things like that. Herbal, THC, CBD, all of those under the category of CAM.
that's fire. Now I gotta look deeper than that because they just changed the laws. Well, they're trying to change the laws for that. Did you guys see
Yeah.
that?
I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure Everybody wants that to be changed. A lot of
Like
people prefer it
they're
changed.
they're taking it off the you won't be charged federally for it anymore.
Mm,
So hopefully a lot of
you
people will get out of
shouldn't.
jail.
And America's been so interesting. America, very interesting. Why were people going to jail for it, or serving prison sentences for it in the first place, right? When, never mind, I digress.
Yeah, so we all know why. We all know why. Good old America.
Uh-huh. Yep, that's it.
Hey man, I'd like to thank you for pulling up on us, man. You definitely got to
Man,
pull up again because we got to get deeper.
Hey, thank y'all for holding this space again. I love doing stuff like this. So anytime, especially when my schedule is like free, I'm absolutely down for doing stuff like this. So thank you both again. And thank you to the interpreters, anybody watching.
man. Oh
Um,
wow.
Bro,
You put us on with that. Like you put us on. Like
I've
this
been
was
learning
dope.
today.
Like the whole setup, bro. We learned so much. Like, and that was not, what we expected was to just interview and get deeper into the person. You taught us something
You
today.
gave us
You know
some
what I'm saying? You
game.
exposed us to a whole new environment of community of people. We
yeah,
appreciate that.
Like
no
it's a lot
doubt. And I'll
deeper.
continue to do that. Oh yeah, and it can get very deep. I'm pretty sure one day y'all are actually going to have a deaf person on and them giving you their perspective, and y'all
Oh
might be like,
yeah.
"Wow, would have never thought about that."
One day I'm gonna have to learn a sentence in sign language. I'm about to say something in sign language one of these days. I gotta,
Hey, it is
hey,
never too late to start, right?
for real. I gotta expand my knowledge in every way I can. But
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It'll be around.
I'm here forever.
So
Like it's too efficient.
is there anything like specific or particular that you want to share before we get up out of here? Anything that you need people to know? Any type of, future endeavors that you want to share?
Uh, just I would say spread the message. I post some things on my Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. Trying to get into TikTok more since it seems to be the time and the way of the future.
It's
But
definitely going.
my handle is pretty consistent. It's TFit HP. It's an acronym for the friend in the high place. So lets you kind of know how I see myself.
Hey,
Spell it out for people so they, get it, correctly.
yeah, it should
Yeah,
be down
T.
below too.
Okay.
Once you post it, I
Okay,
definitely need
man.
you
Go
send
ahead.
all this. I'm
America.
gonna so I put it under it.
Yeah, T. I kind of almost how it sound. TFIT TFit HP. Yeah, but I post like different. I'm trying to do more, enhanced life messages and more positive messaging. Putting that type of stuff out there on the interwebs and whatnot. And yeah, you can just keep track of what I'm doing and where I'm going and what's happening there. Oh, and I resell TV service. That's a little plug, but anything that DirecTV Dish Network has, I'm doing that. You get all the HBO, Stars, Showtime, Cinemax, NFL,
Hey,
NBA, Super Bowl, all in one place for the low low. So just
support the
throwing that
black
out there too.
business. Support the
Hey,
black
there you
business.
go.
You know what I mean?
And if you need a notary public, that's me too.
Tell them all the services, man. Get them right.
Like
Hey,
put them in the
that
game.
interpreting, notary public. I don't know if I'm saying soon to be certified hypnotherapist, current practicing
Yes, sir.
hypnotherapist, and IPTV reseller. There you go.
A true hustler.
Hey,
We got
getting it.
all his links listed below, so y'all gonna be able to book appointments with him, schedule in the DMV area. You can find him. What do you prefer they contact you as, Antonio? I know you as Tony B. Like what would you prefer the clients refer to you as?
For the IPTV, you can call me TFit HP. For interpreting Antonio. No, I'm kidding. Just whatever you know me as, and then if it's a little off, I'll let you know. But Tony is good. Tony B. TFit HP. That's about to be my new company website name. So I'm trying to make that consistent.
It's definitely best to stay consistent on every site with the same name. That
Yeah,
definitely
so I'm
help.
working on that, especially with the whole rebranding and whatnot.
Yeah, that's the rebrand is rebuilding from scratch. I'm already
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
knowing.
hit up Double D Beats again for a new logo because he created my dope logo and I love it.
Hey,
Man, I appreciate that, bro. You're an easy client to work with. You're very descriptive.
Hey, I'm try. I try, and
that
you brought
helps.
the description to life, so appreciate that.
Say, Dad, you can let them know where to hit you up at.
Okay. I'm Double D. You can hit me on Instagram, Double D Beats. I prefer Snapchat, Facebook. You can follow the Next Move podcast page. We release the episodes on Mondays and Fridays. Yeah, yeah, is that right? Fridays,
Yeah,
Mondays, and Fridays. Okay,
every
yeah,
Monday and
Mondays and
Friday now.
Fridays. But yeah, this is a dope interview, man, with a dope person. Thanks for having this
Yeah.
conversation with us, man. You take it easy.
Yeah,
Hey, no
man.
problem. Y'all do the same. Thanks again. Ashe, thank you, interpreters. Appreciate y'all. I
Great
know we'll
job.
talk.
Yeah, man.
All
And
right.
I'm your boy JayGuru. You can follow me on really every day on Twitch at JayGuru Gaming. Thank you, Antonio, for being here. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you for everybody for listening. You know what I mean? This is the Next Move Podcast. We'll see y'all next week. Yee!
All right, y'all. Have a good night.
Y'all get geezy.